Well, hello guys, it has been a while since I've done a deck video, and you know what, despite the interest in Broken Arrow dropping, I am not going anywhere, don't worry about that. So we'll still be pumping out Broken Arrow content, even if the bloody game dies out. Now, what I want to talk about today is a highly requested deck of this video. So basically people want me to talk about a Nukey boy deck, which yeah, I haven't done yet, so why not? Let's get straight into it. Now, whenever I'm building any deck whatsoever, the first thing you got to do, my approach to it, is have the idea in mind. So what do you think this is going to be? Quite obviously TU-160, right? TU-160 with its cruise missile nuke KH-102. So this is the main purpose of it, right? So we'll start with the air power, talking about the deck. You know, usually I go in chronological order, but here the purpose of this deck is to have a nuke. The only way to achieve that with Russia really is obviously with the VDV, because that's the only one that has the nuke, but with Seed, that's the only one, so the Motostrelki, they're the only ones who have decent seed for Russia at a decent price, obviously. And this is our only option, so I've had to go with the VDV and Motostrelki for that reason. So yeah, these two are, you know, obviously mandatory for this deck. But to support it, we've got the Su-30 SM, which obviously has these uninterceptable cruise missiles, the KH-29s, TDs, repeater missiles. Let's just have a look at that speed. Yep, 2,160. Meaning that anything above 2000 is uninterceptable, which is what these bad boys are. Now, again, I use these to support the nuke because they're obviously most useful for taking out AA, RT as well, of course, but taking out AA, which is something that we need to do in order to achieve this. I mean, I rarely will solo queue with this, but, you know, it really does help when you have teammates that are also bringing seed, so that the burden is not just on you waiting for 1,440 points to be spare. Whenever you are deploying this nuke, though, you need both of these aircraft minimum. You need 2 aircraft minimum. A third kind of helps to be able to guarantee the delivery of your nuke. Obviously, if you do take out some AA beforehand, that's great too. Su-35, so yeah, basically it's the only fighter that I can afford in this deck. And essentially, yeah, as you can see, that is a lot of missiles that it's kitted out with. And all of these missiles are big boys that are pretty effective. I mean, oh, speak of a plane, I don't know if you heard that in the background, but that was a plane. I live in an approach path. Anyway, R-37s, huge missiles. They have the longest range in the game of 9,000, so 9 kilometers, backed up by 4 R-77s, again, very long range missiles, but if you get a bit closer, these are terminal guidance. All of these are basically terminal guidance, or like, you know, fire and forget, which is what this one is, and R-73s. So literally you have, I mean, Christ, that's 10 missiles there ready to go with 20% ECM, making the plane actually pretty survivable. The way you want to use this bad boy is beefy. It's got a nice arse, I'll be honest. I think this plane is quite beautiful, especially this paint scheme anyway. But the way you want to use this is obviously fire your long range missiles first, stay at bay, and if you want to close in to finish off some planes, you still have pretty good capacity and capability to do that, because the R-27s really are not bad, even though they're obviously, you know, a bit older generation missiles. They're really not bad, and their hit rate is pretty good. But if you do want to go balls deep straight away, then you will have 4 missiles that can fire pretty much at the same time, which is a lot of firepower. That is, you're going to get a few amount of kills with this bad boy. Obviously, if a Patriot fires, it's dead, so 400 points does make it quite expensive. Do not waste it. I'll talk about the helicopter tab as well, but essentially, whilst this deck is built around, you know, the nuke and the sheer amount of air power that we've got with helicopters as well, you got to balance your decks to have a lot of other stuff, you know, in case this strategy of yours doesn't pay off. You got to be able to stay in the fight, and you got to be able to play, have a hold line and hold a position, which is what the rest of the deck is obviously designed for, including the helicopters, although they're a bit, yeah, we'll talk about them at the end. Stay tuned for that. Right, Recon tab, going back to the basics. Obviously, you know, like I said, with the nuke aside, with the big boy nuke aside, the rest of the deck is just for your generic very standard fighting ability with some flanky features, which I'll talk about as well. But VDV Spetsnaz, yeah, classic top tier squad. I've got them with the long RPG just because, yeah, the armor, by the way, is woeful in this deck. Absolutely terrible. Like, I do not have any armored vehicles whatsoever of any decent note. The Sprut is not a tank. It's you know, a gun. A heavy gun carrier at best. It is not a tank, it is not survivable, it is not great. So we're going to have as many RPGs and cornets as we can have in this deck. So yeah, that's why they're in that setup. It also means that for 700 meters, obviously you trigger the APS quite early here if you do fight vehicles, but it also means that if you do some flanky stuff, which you guys know I do quite enjoy doing, then you can try and hit a Patriot or something at range. Obviously, it's a one launcher, not two, which is a shame. It would be better if this was a double RPG squad, but, you know, you can't have everything. It's still a very capable squad, and those SVDKs are pretty lethal as well, to be fair. I've only got one Typhoon in this deck, which is something I might change. I actually do really rate the Typhoon with the autocannon. Clearly, obviously, that'll disturb my balance of points, but this is essentially just for picking up pilots. That's literally all it's there for. But I guess I've got Kamaz VDVs that are super cheap too, so yeah, I usually drop supply off and pick up pilots on the way back with these anyway. Maybe I'll change things up slightly here, but you know, if you want an autocannon, then I suppose you just stick it on here, which is what I have done with this guy and this guy. Anyway, let's just stick to how it is. So we've got one Typhoon just for picking up pilots. It's the cheapest transport I've got, and for dropping off squads like this, of course. Only one Spetsnaz GRU. Obviously, back before the update, I would have had 3 squads decked out with RPG 28s. However, that's no longer an option. We're going to stick with the RPG and Verbis setup, making it quite a, you know, obviously a really great all-rounder squad. But, yeah, just too expensive. I don't like using expensive squads, but I just love the Batman squad. Batman too much. They are transported in by another cheap vehicle, so again, a cheap K16 to get 8 men in if I'm short of Kamazes, basically. Some snipers. They don't need the long range rifle, and nobody uses long range. You want the suppressed. I can't believe I oversaw that. I only just noticed that. Hey, there we are, making updates and fixes on the go. But yeah, you don't ever need your long range snipers because you lose the suppressors, and that makes them so much worse. I'd much rather have them suppressed. Okay, moving on. A drone. Again, Russia rarely ever uses drones because they got shot down like this. It's not worth it. You don't need the missiles on it. This is basically the only reason you'd use a drone as Russia is to clear out your back lines. Now, I'll talk about the VDV Razvedka. Again, a very capable squad. I do have a lot of time for it. It's very good. Just like this VDV Spetsnaz team, this one's just a bit more up close and personal, better for CQB kind of stuff. Not great for CQB, but, you know, with its stealth, it's good for ambushy stuff. You want to use these guys as a force multiplier, never on their own. So if you stick these VDV Razvedka with VDV the Shah, for example, which is these guys here, got quite a lot of them, that works really well. So yeah, you want to stick these guys together, never on their own. Anyway, yeah, good squad. I do enjoy using it. What about these two? So again, you guys know I do love flanky stuff, and when they're really rapid, obviously we have the big machine gun to try and hit some helicopters. Then they're not going to do a huge amount of damage, but we've got the machine gun paired with the ATGM. So if I can do a sneaky flank with these guys, that, you know, that might pay off. It might not pay off, and I might lose quite a few sets of 45 points, but I've had it work once, and when it does work, it is really quite funny and rewarding. Again, you probably would send these guys on their own. They would be supported by helicopters, which, again, I'll get to next. I wish you could actually put infantry. I mean, look, you've got 4 seats here, maybe one guy in the back. There you go, 5 men. It'd be great to stick a VDV squad inside one of these super speedy vehicles that's got a Metis on it. But unfortunately, the game designers have so far said no to that. So, yeah, that's not going to happen. This is actually quite a good vehicle, which I'd be tempted to throw in because obviously, you know, sneaky, got a good range. You can upgrade the turret to get extra visibility. It works quite well. I think for myself personally, it just becomes a bit expensive when you want it to be useful. So for, you know, that visibility, I'd rather just whip out a sniper. Yeah, it doesn't do too much for me, this vehicle. Although it is good for flanking stuff, I admit that. It doesn't do it for me, so there we go. You obviously don't need these drones either, because, yeah, like I said, the only reason Russia has a drone is basically to clear out its back line. Now, let's talk about the infantry tab, because things get a bit more spicy and interesting here. The VDV Cornet, of course, is one of the best ATGMs in the game. The cheaper version works just fine. You don't need to splash the cash on the more expensive one. Pair of Cornets, they work great. I think enough said, to be honest. Everyone knows what these are. They're pretty capable. Everyone knows what these are as well. So another Cornet, but from this time it's HE. So the warhead is yeah, basically a high explosive variant as opposed to an anti-tank variant, which is obviously what these guys are. However, it still does a lot of damage to light vehicles. If you can penetrate in the vehicle in the back, it basically it's capable of one-shotting some vehicles, which is really cool. 1800 range by default as well. I mean, well, default, you know, on the standoff edition, there's no possibility of upgrading it. So yeah, you want these guys standoff. They work so great. Those machine guns are really fantastic as well. The sniper works great. I mean, this is one of the best long-range I think it is the best long-range anti-infantry squad by a mile, to be honest. Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Especially because it has such a huge advantage in range, given the Cornet buys the HE variant of the ATGM. So yeah, obviously I've got 3 of these because if I'm going to be dealing with infantry, these are my guys. I mean, these are my guys too, but these are the boys to do that. Obviously, they don't really have any anti-tank capability, which is why they can't be used alone and must be backed up by either RPGs or obviously long-range Cornets like we have here. Otherwise, on their own, they are toast against any form of half-decent armor. They are brought in on a K-17, decked out this time, fully decked out, because, yeah, that's how I need it. I want one of these vehicles, but I want 4 of these vehicles as well. So let me just quickly skip the Iglas. I mean, yeah, they are what they are. They're man pads. You get 2 man pads. You want to upgrade them because they're better. These ones are terrible. Get the upgrade. It's not that expensive for 2 Iglas. Enough said about that. But yeah, the BTR-82, this is interesting. I mean, I think there's 2 camps or 2 schools of thoughts about which one's better. Either the BTR-82 or the K-17. I see the merit in both, of course I do, but for me it's the BTR-82 just because of the price. And again, Broken Arrow is a game where price and trading is, to be honest, one of the top priorities. And yeah, I'll take a cheaper vehicle with similar, obviously not the same, but very similar capabilities any day. The only thing that's lacking on the BTR but not the K-17 is of course APS. But when you've got a spam of vehicles, is APS that important? I'd argue potentially not, because that's where your smoke takes over. Plus, 4 missiles that can't fire on the move, unfortunately. These can't fire on the move either. Yeah, like, you know what I mean? It's just, you're going to have to stop and shoot anyway, at which point the enemy's shooting back. And if you're fighting against a tank, you're going to, you know, APS isn't going to save you. You're going to need to smoke out either way. So yeah, I'd rather, you know, have 2 of these for definite. I mean, you can afford 2 of these for nearly 1 of these. And is this twice as good as this? No. Cool. They can both fit 8 man, by the way. So yeah, again, there's just not too much difference in them. And actually, when you look at the armor, this has got better heat protection because of the cage armor, which is, yeah, another good feature for it. Again, not that that makes a difference against tanks whatsoever. Cool. VDV AGSs, now grenade launchers are great, they work brilliantly. This is quite a good squad, I really enjoy using it, and I always talk about this, you know, they have a bit of a psychological effect more than anything. Whilst they're very good, well, I think very decent at dealing with enemy infantry, the fact is, when players see these open up, they tend to panic, smoke out, and run away. Either way, it does worry a lot of players, even though you know, they're not as effective as some people might think. And yeah, the psychological value of these are just great. Obviously, the 800-meter range is also great, but it does keep a lot of infantry squads at bay. And I mean, to be honest, I just love seeing the shells fly, the little, you know, what are they, 30 mil? Yeah, 30 mil grenades flying in the sky and light stuff up. I just enjoy watching these things work. But yeah, the psychological sort of, you know, breaking enemy morale value definitely can't be overlooked here, because it does work well. Now, by the way, for these cornets, I haven't put any of the PTRK cornets in, and to be honest, I just don't think there's any point. Now, we've obviously got 8 cornets here. We've got 3 here, which, again, granted they're HE, but they still trigger APS, etc. Yeah, we've got, quick maths, 11 cornets here. I don't think we need more, especially considering we've got some stuff on the vehicles as well. So this is a decent squad, but, you know, for 20 points more, you get double the amount of cornets, and yeah, I don't really see the purpose of, definitely don't see the purpose of that. The AKs, by the way, it's funny to mention that a lot of Russian squads, they use not 7.62, they actually use 5.45. So like these guys, there we go, 5.45 caliber, which is obviously why the AK is similar damage to the M4 in this game. Obviously, the 7.62 AKs, they do a lot more damage, but very few squads actually have them. Just the sort of special forces Russian guys, which is a bit crazy to me, but whatever. I guess they have to balance the game out that way. But anyway, right, back on target. We've got the VDV Dasha, like I said, 8 squads, but they're so cheap. They're 50 points and they're great. I mean, 2 RPGs, you get these either side of a tank or any sort of vehicle, that vehicle is gone. That vehicle is gone. And again, the machine gun and the AKs actually make the squad quite decent. It's got a grenade launcher too. And you can field, you can spam out so many of these with faked armor, by the way. They're a great squad. I love the VDV Dasha, it is my favorite cheap 50-point infantry squad by a mile. It just worked great. I love it. Brought in by a BTR MDM Skrizhet. I don't know how to say that. I'm fluent in Russian, but I have no idea how to say that. Oh, I suppose we could put armor on it. Yeah, why not? We can afford it. There we go. We've balanced out the missing 20 points. Cool vehicle, by the way. It's called a Rakushka, the base model, which is a shell, like, you know, like a seashell. Yeah, the reason I bring these in is actually mainly for its 15 seat capacity, which means that you know, obviously 3 of these squads, or like I said, these work great with these. So 1 of these and 2 of these. Again, an Igla squad, a grenade squad. You know what works really well is 1 of these, and 1 of these. They work really, really well together, and it's a good combination. So yeah, check it out if you haven't already. 2 vehicles only. Obviously, they're decked out with the AA setup. These guns actually provide some really good fire support against infantry too. So the default range is 1,200, upgraded is 1,300, and whatever she tells you, 100 meters might seem like a little bit, but every little inch counts, boys. Yeah, take my word for it. Anyway, again, stay on target. It's just a good vehicle for bringing in a lot of troops, which is why I have it. Now, the Moto Pichota. Pichota means infantry, so Moto Pichota, motorized infantry, right? Russian isn't that hard to learn, I'll be honest. Yeah, just a generic infantry squad with a sniper. I've not had too much luck, or generic squads in general aren't really my cup of tea. I haven't had too much of usage out of these guys, but, you know, like, there's no harm in sticking them in just to make up the points. They do have an RPG 7, which, yeah, it's the same RPG as this guy's. So, again, just an extra RPG with a bit of extra firepower there. Not much to say about these guys. Don't really recommend them, but, you know, for an extra few points, you can either stick these guys in, which, to be fair, is not a bad shout. You still get... Yeah, it's not a bad shout at all. You know what? Let's do it this way. Voila. Bang. You definitely don't want the VDV Igla. They're terrible. This is a decent vehicle, I suppose. You could have that in, but obviously its seating capacity is only 10, whereas this is a lot higher, 15. Yeah, other squads to mention. The Descentniki, again, not great. These guys are just a cheaper version and worse version of this. Less armor as well, so you don't want them as well. Again, you could have this just to trigger some APS, but I don't really see... Well, I don't see the point too much. Yeah, fine, why not? Let's just try it. Let's just try it, why not? Suppose... Ah, you can also upgrade the menace for a quad. Nah, there's really no need for a quad. Quads aren't that great on their own. But anyway, the infantry tab is actually really capable. I actually really do enjoy the infantry tab, especially seeing as I get so many of these guys, and these guys, and these, and these, and these. These are honestly top tier units. I really love them. Now, okay, the embarrassing part of this deck is the vehicles tab. Spruts, terrible. The gun's pretty terrible. It's not like the M8. The M8's actually got an amazing gun. But in all fairness, this does exactly what it's supposed to. For 115 points, you can't complain too much. It works. I mean, what else can I say about it, really? It's definitely not a frontline vehicle, of course not. I mean, it's designed to be thrown out of a plane, which is crazy, but that's from Mother Russia for you. Yeah, obviously, if you get 3 of these, which is what I've got, firing at the same time, then it packs a punch. Obviously, as soon as this gets hit once, you need to smoke out, retreat, because it's not going to survive the second hit. So there we go. That's the spruts for you. The spruts are backed up by the cornet, and again, backed up is a deliberate word because, again, this is just an ATGM launcher. It fires 2 at the same time. Can't fire on the move. And it also shoots against infantry, which is, again, the reason that we've gone for the ATGMs, because, like I said, the lack of armor means we have to compensate for it with extra ATGMs and RPGs. So there we go. Cornets are... they're okay. I mean, I've had mixed things with them. The thing is, the 1,800 meter range is quite quick and easy to close that gap, but that's the only choice I've got in this deck, which is, yeah, pretty... makes some situations difficult, but everything else more than compensates for it. I wouldn't worry about it too much. You kind of are slightly dependent for tanks from your teammates, but yeah, whatever. It's how the cookie crumbles. You're not going to be doing too badly with the sheer abundance of ATGMs that you have in this deck. Support. Right. S300. It shoots down aircraft. Any questions? No. Cool. I would say it's obviously definitely worth upgrading it for the extra range to the... even though it's obviously 50 points, it's quite a lot, it's quite expensive. But yeah, it is worth it. And also, is there a difference in the rocket? No. Apart from it takes longer to resupply, which is annoying. But otherwise, they are pretty much identical. I hope that the tracking is slightly better, but obviously there's no sort of hit probability or tracking stats that we can access easily. So yeah, no, I don't know. I'm going to have it upgraded, whatever. The Osaz, which means a wasp, I believe. Yeah, and the Sa is a wasp. Cool camo, cool. Anyway, not my cup of tea. I actually don't really like this vehicle at all. Kind of annoys me a lot. Now, you definitely want it upgraded because it can fire on the move if you do. But otherwise, it's not as good as the sheer abundance of other Russian AA that you can get, like the Tor, the Panzer. They all are so much better than this vehicle, but hey, it is relatively cheap, and yeah, it achieves... It sometimes achieves its purpose. It's not very good for intercepting missiles, by the way. Definitely don't get your hopes up with that. Definitely don't try to keep an AA net open with these guys and these in front of it, because they will all get killed. It's just not going to work. Don't do it. Right, okay, there's transport. So again, troop ferries. If you're a regular of the channel, you know that I love troop ferries, which is what these two are. This is essentially a big version of this. It does what it says on the tin. It brings in some troops and some supply very quickly for a fairly cheap cost. This brings in more troops and more supply for a larger cost, and that's a bit slower. And that's how it works, really. I mean, I have loaded this up with 24 infantry before and deployed it into battle with supply, by the way. It works great. I mean, it works absolutely fine. It does its job. And obviously you can get 8,000 supply for the AA. Enough said. Grads. I love and hate grads at the same time, because obviously Katyushas were iconic in World War II. This is the new modern version. Not really my favorite. I hardly, in all honesty, even though I've got them in the deck, I hardly ever bring them into battle. Incendiary, again a word I struggle with and probably should avoid saying at all costs. Just it's been nerfed, it's awful, it's more expensive and less effective than it used to be. There's no point using these. Just high explosive works fine if you want cluster, use it, but I recommend high explosive. I did have these in smoke, but it's a bit pointless, I'll be honest. Yeah, if you want smoke, just use a mortar or something like that. Especially with the aim time being so much quicker. The aim time is long, even when you have smoke. It's still the same aim time, so it's just a bit slow at that point. I've been toying with the idea of having the smirch, but that's more a supporting player's job. It's not really my cup of tea, and to be honest, if you want to delete stuff, voila. Right, that's obviously what the nuke's for. So yeah, no, I don't really want to use this much. I'm not a support player, I'm really terrible at it, to be honest. If I was going to use it, I would use it with the guided munitions, because obviously we've got a good amount of recon. This Spetsnaz can laze, by the way, when it's upgraded by 10 points, which yeah, is actually quite a really useful feature, because you can do a lot of ambushy stuff with those guys. And yeah, if you want to laze on targets, then absolutely switch it, get rid of the grads, put the tornado in. But as it stands, I'm not going to use it, just for personal reasons. Nothing, I don't have too much against this vehicle, but I'm not a sport player, guys. I have tried using Tochkas, but again, they're kind of more of a meme vehicle than anything. Pretty cheap for a cruise missile, or sorry, ballistic missile. Yeah, if you use it with seed, they don't actually work too badly, and this is a big boy missile. I mean, that's a lot of damage it can do. But otherwise, yeah, no, just more of a meme than a serious contender for a vehicle. I forgot to quickly mention, obviously, I've got these trucks. They're just a bit of extra firepower. I don't really use these an awful lot either, but when I do my flanky stuff, then I can throw those in to try and help out against helicopters. I suppose a 57mm gun would work better, but look at the range. It's lower than the Dirivatsa. I mean, still decent, but not really the biggest upgrade ever. I suppose you could run it like this with the Iglas, but nah, I'm just going to keep it cheap. Yeah, there we go. So just a bit of a support vehicle. Obviously, it does a lot of damage to infantry, which is why I keep it. It's more for dealing with infantry than helicopters, for sure. Can't intercept cruise missiles either, which is annoying. Helicopters. Now, this is a tab to get excited about, because the helicopters in this tab are great. I mean, there's a huge shit ton of them. I mean, Jesus Christ, how many is that? 1, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 helis in a tab. That's pretty good, and they're all pretty capable and useful and usable, and basically decent in one way, shape, form, or another. K-52, I think this doesn't need much of an introduction. Everybody knows what a K-52 is. You know what, let me stick the guns on instead. For shooting down helicopters, by the way. If you get within 900 meters of a helicopter, the helicopter is going to go down. These rip apart helicopters for free. Vickers, everyone knows what Vickers are. They ripple fire. They're basically a more expensive and better version of the attacker. It's annoying that attackers don't ripple fire, because otherwise I'd just keep them, because there is ultimately not much difference, other than the fact that these fire a bit quicker. Mi-35s. Now, again, a lot of these helicopters are for flanky, sneaky, beaky, naughty operations, right? Obviously, they can fit 8 men inside, so they're pretty good for rapidly deploying troops with firepower. Yeah, they are actually pretty... I do really enjoy using these cheaper Russian, well, Soviet old helicopters. They're quite a lot of fun to use. So let me talk you through them. If you get a formation of all these helicopters, which again isn't that expensive when you look at all the individual price tags, and launch them into the enemy back lines, you will do a lot of damage. Now, these guys are decked out with obviously rockets and Iglas for when inevitably the Americans are going to retaliate with killer eggs and Kiowas. So hopefully you'll try and shoot them down before they shoot you down. So that is the purpose of the Iglas. We've got some more here. So again, double Igla setup just to try and do as much damage to the American helis at the same time. Again, you want all these kind of flying at the same time, or at least one of each kind of deal. The Mi-24 is good for spotting. It is cheap. It has rockets. It will do damage. I actually quite like the Yak-B minigun. You don't need to for which heli is it? You don't need the upgrade. I mean, This works fine, and it shoots for a lot longer, thereby doing a bit more damage by default. Also, the splash damage, or like the sort of, minigun effect, means that if a vehicle is near supply, it's more likely to hit it than this, which is cool. Anyway, yeah, this is the Recon heli, so 2000 range. I mean, this has 2000 view range as well, but, why not? This one's the one that's going in deep. This one's hanging back a bit, trying to shoot down the Killer Eggs and Kiowas. We've also got this, a very cheap helicopter, again, with some Iglas, with some Cocons. Now, these are very terrible, normally, very cheap anti-tank missiles. However, when it does 10 damage and you're shooting at a Patriot that's obviously unarmored and doesn't have APS or smoke, they do the job just fine too. These are more better, in my opinion, than these. And yeah, they still have the rocket launchers. You could stick these on as well if you want to rejig a few points. But yeah, no, to be honest, this is a really good setup as well. You do a lot of damage with this helicopter, all for 205 points. Get yourself a bargain, treat yourself. But anyway, I'm trying to do it cheaper and more quantity, because ultimately a helicopter will get shot down, so the more helis you have, the longer and the more damage you'll do before losing all of them. So there we go. And obviously a transport helicopter, but again, we've put some missiles on it and some guns, just because we can. We've got enough supply vehicles and troop transporters that I probably won't ever need to use it, but I like having the option of having it should I need it, which is, yeah, literally the only reason I have it in the deck. You have such a good, fantastic selection of helicopters in this deck. You can also whip out, where is it, the Mi-28 with the Lima missiles. Obviously it becomes super duper expensive, but also super duper effective, so that's a trade-off for you to decide. But to be honest, with the amount of, again, I would like to play a quantity numbers game in here. I'm pretty happy having this helicopter like that. But again, if you trade all this out and you don't want to do any flanky stuff, you're just happy with, a long range support helicopter, this is your guy. Back him up with two of these, two of these, two of these. Beautiful combination. You're not going to need much more than that. Yeah, it will work just fine. And, even if you get one of these in the mix to, go in front of this and do some more damage with the Vickers, you're more than welcome to. You're more than welcome to. It will work just as well. But ultimately, my purpose of these helicopters is to do damage into the rear lines. Take out AA so that I can ultimately get this nuke off, which ties it nicely back to the nuke. Again, I have had so much fun with this deck, so much success as well. Like, you might think that this is a crazy deck, you don't have any armor, which is obviously pretty essential for... It's one of the best parts of Russia, the armor selection that you get. And, you might not think that this deck will work in a 5-man stack, but it just works so well. Even 1v1, like, playing against an American tank deck, I'd be quite happy to take this deck in and give the Americans a ride for their money. But yeah, that's what it's all about. It's also about, the game's ultimately a game. It's all about having fun. And who doesn't love seeing a nuke go off? Because I know I do. But yeah, no, that is all I have for you fine people. Thank you for watching. You are great. But remember, there's lots of decks that you can choose from, but whenever you're building it, have the specific purpose in mind, which is what we have here, and we've achieved that pretty well. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope you subscribe to my channel and watch more stuff like this. I've got plenty of deck videos, tutorials, and stuff like that. See you around. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.